morning. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. In particular, I'd like to thank Tom and Moshe, who helped set this up this morning. Every week in this situation called life, we have different challenges, so we appreciate everyone who makes this possible. Thank you, Avram Eliezer from Afar. Today's share, we'd like to talk about, it's entitled The Summer Vacations and the 3 Weeks. Being the fact that the period of the 3 weeks begins this week with Tainus Shavas Batamas, which I believe falls out on Thursday. So I think it's appropriate to talk about the 3 weeks. But the way I would like to do it today is not just go through the general halachas of the 3 weeks. I'd like to focus specifically on the question of, can one go on a summer vacation during the 3 weeks? And the question is going to be a question in terms of, right now, the period that begins this week with the Tainus of Shavas Batamas begins the 3 weeks. Then getting closer to Tisha B'Av from Rosh Chodesh is the period of the 9 days, which for Ashkenazim takes on more significance. Then you have Shua Shechalbo, then you have Tisha B'Av. So, right, if you have a Sephardi friend, it might be easier for them to go on vacation. I remember a couple of years ago we gave a share about a mixed marriage, Ashkenazim and Sephardim, Svashkenaz. Yeah. Whenever the wife wants to go on vacation. I guess that's how you do it. But I guess the question really is, we're going to go through that we know it's a tricky period, it's seemingly a dangerous period, and is right now, during the 3 weeks, a time for people to go on vacation or not? Does halacha, I guess we'll touch on some hashkafa, does that inhibit someone from taking a vacation? Now, obviously, look, if a person could plan their vacation, which is a pretty popular time to go after Tisha B'Av, Shabbos Nachamu is always happening upstate in the mountains in New York, right? To go then, okay, then in many ways you might avoid some of the issues we're talking about over here. But practically speaking, anyone knows, the calendar of life, Lav Davka works perfectly, that the person could figure out to go on vacation only after Tisha B'Av. For many people, just logistically working out the calendar, this is the time of the year that they have available that they could go away. This is the time they could take off from work. This is the time they could go with their kids. So should one be going on a vacation during the 3 weeks? So to begin, I think we'd like to analyze 2 topics today. The first topic, when it comes to this period, 3 weeks, is the issue of Avelos. And Avelos is something which, for the most part, doesn't really pick up majorly until Tisha B'Av. There are certain things, you can't dance, you can't have music, okay? Fine. You can't take haircuts. That doesn't necessarily stop a person from going on vacation. Most vacations you're not dancing so much. And you can take a haircut before you go on vacation. So, l'chara, the Hilchos Avelos would not directly be something that holds a person back from doing something during the 3 weeks. Now, it might hold a person back going, if let's say the person, the only time you can get away is during the 9 days. So it's trickier. In 9 days already, one of the halachas is we don't, the minhagim is we don't go swimming during the 9 days. And Ashkenazim. And thus, that is, I would say, an impediment for people. Many people don't want to go away. They want to go to a place where they could go swimming. Many people don't have the luxury of having that opportunity during the year. It's either too cold or they don't have a pool. But on vacation, people like going swimming. So the 9 days, Hilchos Avelis itself would be something that might hinder people from going on vacation. But during the 3 weeks, Avelis is not something that stops it. So why is it that there's any issue then? There's no Avelis issue. So what's the problem about going away during the 3 weeks? So this really gets to the root of what the 3 weeks are called in halacha. The halacha, 3 weeks is called Bein HaMetzarim. And it connotes the fact that the 3 weeks are the time between the tzaros, between the tragedies of Tainus Shavas Batamas, which is made actually after multiple tragedies, together till the time period of Tisha B'Av, which Tisha B'Av, really the 10th of Av too, is a time of tremendous tragedies. So that those bookends, Shavas Batamas to Tisha B'Av, is a time of tragedies, Bein HaMetzarim. And that itself makes it that it's a dangerous time. It's a time of sakana. And being the fact it's a time of sakana, that's something which we're going to have to analyze. Hey, of all the times during the year, you don't want to necessarily go away at a time which is viewed in halacha as a time of sakana. Now, where do we see anything about that? So if you look in Siman Tav Kuf Nun Aleph, which is actually have on the sheets, the first Bar Makom, the Mechaber writes, Tzarech lizaher mi Yud Zayin b'Tammuz ad Tisha B'Av. A person has to be careful from the tightness of Tisha B'Av, of Shavas B'Tammuz until Tisha B'Av. Shel leilach yichidi mi arba shos ad tesha shos. A person should not walk alone, travel alone from 4 hours in, I believe, into the day till 9 hours. Why? So the parenthesis says, Mishum shebehem katav merili sholet. Those hours, there's a shade, a demon that rules over things. And secondly, the Mechaber writes, V'lo yakel ha-talmidim yamim lahem. You shouldn't slap talmidim during that time. I saw some of the Russian point out, it doesn't mean Rabbi Avad Yosef's, he was fond for hitting people on their cheeks. You know, it doesn't mean a love tap. It means, back in the days of corporal punishment, when parents wanted to mechanech their children, maybe this should be its own topic, but hitting them. So it says specifically during these days, one shouldn't hit the talmidim. I remember every year learning this in camp. In my days, they still had corporal punishment when I was growing up. I remember thinking to myself, boy, when you learn this halach in camp, it's free reign. They can't get us now. We're good. We're safe. But that is also brought down. Now, what's the reason behind this? So it's a sakana. This is a time where there's a fear that Mechaber, I guess, points out these specific two things. You shouldn't walk by yourself. You could get snatched up by the demon. And this is black and white Shulchan Aruch. And secondly, you shouldn't hit talmidim, because being the fact it's a time of sakana. So normally during the year, okay, things go about with a certain mazel, and look, if it's the right thing to do to hit, you hit, according to those opinions. But this time, being it's a time of sakana, one has to be very careful. the poskim all talk about not limiting it after to these 2 points. For example, when it talks about hitting Talmidim, so they say there's sakana involved in just any time you're of physical hurting somebody. So one of the questions is one allowed to have surgery during the 3 weeks? And the poskim debate it. They talk about it. So Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, for one, advises that if at all possible, one should push off a surgery during these days. He views it included in L'Yakal Tamidim Yom Mehem. I believe I saw Rav Moshe. Others may say, maybe not during the 9 days, but during the 3 weeks, it would be okay to hit oneself to have a surgery. I think Rav Moshe Guf is Mechalik. He doesn't consider that the same thing as hitting a Talmud because it's self-inflicted and it's for refuah, even though one would argue perhaps for Talmidim too. But okay, there's machlokas about that. But what you really see is this time period is a dangerous time period. And unfortunately, I guess you'd call empirical evidence that these days, during the 3 weeks, things happen. Rahman al many times, many years. And you hear stories of Chas Hashem, something going wrong on a country road, upstate. You hear about things that happen, and a lot of times it's like, oh my gosh, it's the 3 weeks again. Jews have, it's not just Nisana Tokef that's a killer, but the 3 weeks is a time of sakana, and you seem to see this clearly in the Shulchan Aruch. In Ida Gisa, I would like to touch on the topic of Shadim. Tell you a funny story. In Shir, my regular daily Gemara share, so sometimes at the beginning of Shir, we talk about different Hashkafa topics. So let the Talmidim bring up questions. There's one Talmud in my share this year. He says, Rebbe, can we talk about Shadim? It was like any time I opened the floor for questions, this guy's interest was all about Shadim. Like, I don't know what he was dreaming at night. Poor guy. Must have had nightmares. But like, constantly, any Hashkafa topic, what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about marriage? You want to talk about college, this, that? No, this Talmud always wanted to talk about Shadim. So first of all, I don't claim to know a lot about them. I pushed it off as much as I could. But basically towards the end of the year, okay, you went through some different, it's fascinating. You actually find a lot of the Rishonim have discussions about the concept of Shadim. So I finally touched on it. But I didn't show him this because I didn't find it yet. But these halachas, specifically this halacha, one shouldn't go by themselves. I found, when Shmuel Kamenetsky was asked, we don't find people being makbid on this. Right? There are people that do travel alone, whether it's by car, by foot. And okay, so one thing you tell me, in the city it's not so bad, but you find people don't go walking, don't go jogging, in upstate, and you can find yourself by yourself. And the people are makbid not to do that during the 3 weeks. You don't find that, even the Noshim Chashuvim. So Shmuel Kamenetsky, and this is also on your sheets, comments on this mechaber. We're not knowing. This is important to know. There are many halachas, things brought in Shulchan Aruch. Lav davka, everything that's brought there is practically something that people are nizering. So Shmuel says beferish, people are not knowing to be zar in this. V'nosim yechidi afilu chutz la'ir, people could travel even by themselves outside the city, right? As we know, we gave a share last year about Hilchos Tfilas Derech. You know, Hilchos Eruvin comes up in not so far, you know, in many situations traveling outside the city. The nearest is Somchim Ha'olam, the Zman Hazeh, in Hashedim Mitzuyim Beinenu. Because nowadays, Al Tiftach Peh L'Satan, but nowadays, we don't have Shedim around us. The world is Mako. Where's Rav Shmuel get it from? So Rav Shmuel says a fascinating idea, and I did not get a chance to look into this a little deeper. I'd like to find out the significance of this. But there's a Kabbalah which means an oral tradition that we have going back generations after generations, dating back to the Gra. We have a direct Kabbalah, this Shmuel Kamenetsky said, from the Gra, that you don't have to be worried whatsoever about Shedim in our times. And the Gra traces back, why not? We've seen Halacha, they talk about Shedim. So why is it that one doesn't have to be careful about it? So Rav Shmuel quotes from this tradition of the Gra, that the Gra said from the time that they killed the Ger Tzedek, though no, once he was killed, that was Mevatel Shedim. Now that itself sounds quite spooky, quite fascinating. Here we have this Jew, he was a Megayer, died al Kiddush Hashem for being a Jew, Ger Tzedek, and it seems it had such a mapecha, did so much in Shemayim, that it literally changed. The Gra testified that changed Shedim. From that point on, you don't have to worry about Shedim. I think just that story alone gives a little perspective. You know, Chazal say, Misas Tzadikim is mechaper for the door. When great people are nifter, so it's like a kapara for the door. Right? This is a practical halacha. The Gra is telling us, you know, the Shulchan Aruch, some Tavkuf Nun Aleph, the Mechaber there, says you got to be careful about Shedim during the 3 weeks. Shmuel says we have a Kabbalah back to the Gra, we don't have to worry about it, because the Ger Tzedek was nifter. Once the Ger Tzedek was nifter, so in Shemayim, it executed tremendous power, and you don't have to worry about Shedim anymore. Quite fascinating. I found footnotes there by Rav Shmuel. They quote an earlier sefer called Mu'uri Or, and there he brings earlier svarim, multiple, that you could even trace back already the decline of the power of Shedim all the way back to the times of the Gemara, from the times of Abaye. In fact, so much so that if you trace it back that far, you can trace to the times of Amoraim, you don't have to worry about Shedim. So he even views it as a question, why did the Beis Yosef bring this down? But even if one says, in the times of Beis Yosef, there were Shedim, and there was a factor that inhibited people, the Gra clearly says from his time and on, once they killed the Ger Tzedek, the world changed, and one doesn't have to worry about these things. So, halacha l'maisa, right? At least this particular halacha, to be worried about Shedim, to be worried specifically at this aspect of the 3 weeks, of the sakana, of traveling by oneself, traveling yechidi, that one doesn't have to worry about. However, it doesn't mean that the period is not a sakana whatsoever. Well, this halacha of Yaakov Talmidim, right? The poskim debate. So they are still afraid that there is some sakana, maybe not this specific sakana of the shade, but there is sakana during this period of Bein HaMetzarim. And I would bring up an issue that happened last year. Last year, if people remember, there were multiple tragedies that happened during the summer. One of the tragedies was at the beach, I believe I think it took place in Virginia. Sure, I remember the Rebbe was from Virginia. There was a camp back a year ago. No social distancing, no worries. We had a big camp that went out to the beach, and one of the students got caught up in the tide. So the counselor, who was a Rebbe, swam out to him, and luckily, Baruch Hashem, that he was able to reach that Talmud, and Talmud was able to, that teenager was able to get back and get to shore. However, the Rebbe who swam out to save him, unfortunately himself got caught up in the tide, and he did not get back to shore. So remember, it's tremendous tragedy. I know somebody told me they spent part of the time last summer with that boy who was saved by the Rebbe. And it was not an easy summer for him, knowing what happened, the first half of the summer, how it was literally someone risked his life to save him. Tremendous tragedy. Loss of a wonderful Rebbe. There was, on top of that, there was, it's quite common nowadays for multiple camps, yeshivas to get together and rent out water parks. They have a whole water park just for boys, for girls. And during one of these trips, which literally have hundreds upon hundreds of kids there was one kid that drowned in the water park last summer. Remember, I believe, additionally, there was a backyard pool incident. There was a camp or a bungalow, house or bungalow. There was, I believe, even other events. All these events happening over the summer, I believe some of them over the period of 3 weeks. And it made a big impact in the frum world because, you hear about tragedy after tragedy, and they were all really had a common denominator that was all with water. And it was very scary. I believe the Shiloh was after Tisha B'Av, when swimming is back open. So the question was, were camps, they already had booked, they were planning a trip to go to a water park. Should they continue to go to the water park? Or should you say not? Because look what happened so far this summer. So many people were taken in water-related deaths. And I remember one gadol, I'll leave out his name for a moment, but I remember one gadol saying very strongly, and it was widely reported, that camps should not be taking their kids. It wasn't offering swimming, but to go to water parks, to do jet skiing, but activities other than swimming, which have some degree of danger. He was advising them not to. And his reasoning was, look, there's obviously a gzeira on water. It's a shas sakana for water. And thus, we can't do it. We shouldn't take camps. I remember being around another Adam Gadol who, when was told about what the first Gadol said, his response right away was, who told him that? How do you know this is because of a gzeira on the water? Look, obviously everything that Kadosh Baruch Hu does is worked out to the T, and they all happen to be with water. But we don't know that the reason is specifically water, and we don't know what the reasons are in Shemayim. We don't have the Gra here telling us, what happens with Shadim, post the Ger Tzedek. We don't know these things. So to aser, to prohibit, camps, kids, families from doing what they normally would do, because you have a sense that this is a water-related thing. Gobel number 2 said, I don't know about that. And I remember it was a fascinating discussion, Just, I believe, a day later, Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky, they publicized that they asked Rav Shmuel, and Rav Shmuel says the camps can continue going to water parks. Same response. We don't know the reasoning behind this. And this whole area of sakana is really something which needs gedolim to paskan on. It's really hard. The armchair quarterback at home was keeping score of some tragedies. It's hard for us to really know what the correct thing is, what the right thing is to do in a situation like this. And sakana is a very, very tricky element, and therefore it's something that definitely needs shilas too. I definitely think it was a shilah last summer what to do with water parks. But something big like this, you should put on the shoulders of Gedolim, let them answer what they think is a sakana, what the right thing is to do in these types of situations. And just to even give a picture of how hard it really is to define sakana. There's a Bir Halacha over here. The Bir Halacha, when the Mechaber writes that one has to be careful from Shivas B'Tammuz till Tisha B'Av, the Bir Halacha brings Fimash Mavur B'Psachim Kuf Yud Aleph, right on the base, that there's Gemara in Psachim comes out from there. Yoser Yesh Lizar Mechad B'Tammuz Ashi Yoser Divari Shchechi. There's an opinion based on the Gemara that you're worried about Shavas B'Tammuz till Tisha B'Av. Pofar Keret. From Rosh Chodesh Tammuz till Shavas B'Tammuz. That's even more dangerous. Vari D'Shkeach Hazeka. Now, we know about the 3 weeks. Maybe we just don't know about this Bir Halacha. Did anyone ever hear about the sakana of Aleph Tammuz and on? Not really. And that's a worse sakana? Why is the Bir Halacha brings it? It's not an halacha that from Aleph Tammuz and on it's worse. In fact, there is another idea. I don't know anybody over here. You could contact me from the home audience. But do you know anyone who fasted this past Friday? You're scratching your head. Rabbi, the fast is coming up Thursday, Shavas B'Tammuz. There's a fast on Friday? No one told me about it. Whoops. Yes, there's a fast. There's an interesting idea that Erev Shabbos, Parshas Chukas, is on the day of tragedy, day of sakana. And that's because this is actually brought in Magen Avram, that in the ages they had issues on, it wasn't a date on the calendar. That's what's so fascinating. Normally you say, okay, there's bad mazel, this date on the calendar, right? Tisha B'Av is a day of bad mazel through the generations. It's that date on the calendar. This is one of the few instances. No, it's not the date of the calendar. It's rather the date. It comes out different days of the calendar, the Jewish calendar each year. But it's Erev Shabbos, Parshas Chukas. And they bring, which really traces back, and they bring its Unkelos on Parshas Chukas, Zos Chukas HaTorah. Onkelos translates it as the Gzeira D'Oraisa, that there's tragedies that come up. When my Talmidim I knew of this concept. He got himself an art school, Onkelos, so when he translates Chumash into Aramaic with Onkelos, he actually knows what it means. So he was all excited because he saw the footnote where they bring down this Magen Avram based on this Onkelos, that Zos Chukas HaTorah, Parshas, that there's a fast day. There's a fast day because of the sakana of what the day is. So there you have another example of sakana, which lav dafka people are nizarin. We don't really have people that fast. Erev Shabbos, Parshas Chukas, majority Hamonam. And okay, look, there are different periods which could be a sakana. Right, the Be'er Halacha has its out from Rosh Chodesh Tammuz and on. It's worse. So, yeah, there are these things, but you have to ask Rabbanim, Gedolim. For the most part, I believe they feel that vacationing is an important thing for people. People need to get away. And I don't know of people that limit vacations from the 3 weeks. I actually know many people who go on vacations during the 3 weeks. And Kol Shekain, to be Nizar in this Be'er Halacha from Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. Yeah, you have to know. So that's the first part. I'd like to go through some practical halachas based on this. So what we came across so far is that in terms of Shadim, that Rav Shmuel was mater. In terms in general of sakana during the 3 weeks, so it exists. It's not nothing. So practically speaking, I found an interesting machlokas. It's brought down in the footnotes of the Dirshu Mishabura, and I went through quite a few of the sources. There are many differences of opinions. What should one do during the 3 weeks? Is one allowed to go to the ocean or not? Now, obviously, the ocean is a much bigger sakana for talking for an adult. I was not talking about a kid. You know, it is always important. Maybe this platform alone, we should speak about it. The Shmartim Nafshosechem, and really, probably, we could go through. It's probably an Isser Torah otherwise. You know, we're about to talk about going to the ocean, but of course, you know, danger could even be not in the ocean, just going to a backyard, and Rahman on a kid falling into a pool, and you go through the stats. You know, every year, Rahman across the world, there are little children that are unfortunately drowned in pools. Pools are a dangerous thing, and you got to be careful. One of the most basic things is to have a nice system where it's enclosed. You have a gate around the pool. Now, I'm not going through the whole sugya, but there's halachas, right? We know Chazal say that you have to make a micah, you have to make a fence on a roof or really any platform that one might fall off. It's a chiyuv in the Torah, right? V'asisa micah l'geigecha. So, huadin, that responsibility applies to a pool. You know, there are many people that, you know, a pool could be a centerpiece of your house, right? You have a nice window in your house overlooking your pool. So I understand. It looks very nice when you just look at the pool and you just see the gorgeous water, the clean, pristine pool. It looks great. And a fence takes away from the beauty. You don't see it as much, even if it's translucent, you know. But Maisa, if there ever are children that could fall into a pool around one's house, it really is incumbent upon someone to put up a pool, put up a gate. That's a very important step. And huadin, when people are at pools, to be extra careful and extra careful, to be nizar, to do things. In fact, I'll tell a story now. We're talking about pools. I know this story because I know some of the people involved. That some families went away together to rented a big home, multiple floors, multiple places. A few families went together. Usually get together in the summer. So they went away. And one day, I think the story is the wives were out shopping, the men were home, and basically one of the kids, the men were home watching the kids, I like using the word babysitting, and one of the kids got out to the pool, little baby kid, and fell into the pool. And if you don't find the kid right away, you're in trouble. And all the men, were busy doing things and watching the kids, and they didn't notice this kid went out. Luckily, one of the men happened to see the door open and looked outside of the pool and saw the kid there. He jumped into the pool, got the kid out, did CPR, and Chazal Hashem saved the kid's life. What's actually an amazing part of the story is these few mishpachos are very close, and they would get together every year, and that particular vacation, one of the families financially wasn't doing well that year, and they weren't going to come. But one of their friends felt that it's so chaval that every year they come, they say they can't afford it, they need a vacation, and they'll feel worse that everyone's coming and they're not. So this family quietly, without, told them, we'll pay for you to come, we want you to come. And they came. This story was said over, which was quite amazing. They made a Sudas Hodah after this whole incident. The one who saved the child's life was the one who wasn't supposed to be there. And the child who they saved was the child of the benefactor, the Baal Chesed, who paid for his friend to come. It's a perfect story. How you see, when you do a chesed, you think you're helping the other person out. Kadosh Baruch Hu works it out. The person who you help out, many times, they're helping you more. So, in general, all year round, people should be careful, but probably especially during the 3 weeks, with children around pools. It needs constant zahiras. But what the poskim talk about is going out to the ocean. And the ocean is obviously more dangerous than the pool because you have tides. And they bring down, going back to the Nesivis, has a halacha sefer, the Makor Chaim, where he writes that one shouldn't go washing out in the rivers and the seas during the 3 weeks because of the sakana. The Eis Mesugal Lara, it's a time where bad things can happen. V'chein Hadas, Rabbi Yashav, they also bring down, said one shouldn't go out to the ocean to go swimming. Rav Moshe Feinstein said one shouldn't go to the beach. He said, it's good halachas. I labeled this in 3 weeks. We could have labeled this, July 4th weekend. But, it's not just the here in Florida, they shut down the beaches because of corona fears. But look, if it was up to Rav Moshe, Rav Yashav, the Stipler, he says, hey, we shouldn't. We should. It's so funny. Halacha, right? Yeah. I guess there's a precedent, right? We look at the halacha. This halacha we're talking about is sakana of chas v'shalom, drowning. But now they're shutting beaches because they're afraid of the sakana of spreading, a virus. I even wonder, yesh lachkar, this is not Tafka 3 weeks related, but who knows? Maybe people should be more nizar about coronavirus during the 3 weeks, because it's a dangerous thing. It's a trickier time. Who knows? Me'ira Gisa, Rav Shlomo Zalman and Rav Vosner from Bnei Brak. They say 100% during the 3 weeks one could go swimming in the ocean, river. That is allowed. One could go to the beach. But, assuming you could go to the beach. But they do say, obviously one should be careful. But during the 3 weeks, pre the 9 days, one would be allowed, Rav Shlomo Zalman and Vosner Paskin could. So it's a major machlokas of modern day poskim. Should one be allowed to go swimming in beach, an ocean, a river? It is a major machlokas. So ask your local rabbi which way he would tell you. Either at the same time, they bring from the Chazon Ish, verified, that one could go, if one needs it for health, one would be allowed to go out to the beach, the river. I assume, let's say the scenario the person needs for health-wise, he needs to go swimming, he needs to do that for himself. He doesn't have a pool, so one would be allowed, the Chazon Ish says, to do it, and so much so the Chazon Ish himself did that. They have down, this is in the Steipler Sefer, I believe Reb Chaim Kanievsky testifies to this. The Chazon Ish used to go to the Yam, to the sea, for health reasons, right? Sometimes people go to the sea. I know people, they say the Dead Sea is very good for one's body, for one's skin. I know somebody that spent a few summers in Eretz Yisrael, dafka for that for the sea, it was recommended to do it. Claims it worked wonders. So with Tzarech B'Yuso, 100% one would be allowed to do that during the 3 weeks. 9 days are different, but that would be allowed. Tzarech B'Yuso. I wonder, the whole machlokas of whether you go to the sea or not, go to the water, sounds like a machlokas if you're doing it stam for enjoyment. But for health, one would be allowed to. Yesh lachkar, what about mental health? Vacation, especially in the world today, I could hear a very strong tzad that, especially after being cooped up in housing for a long time, everyone needs a vacation, and whatever people are able to do, and that's very healthy for mental health. And I wonder, I'm poskening straight up, but even those who say you can't go to the Yam, perhaps we're not just talking out. Tzarech B'Yuso is a physical health, but also mental health. If that's what a person needs, perhaps even during the 3 weeks, one would be allowed to do that. There's another debate I found. Look, if we're worried about sakana, is one allowed to fly? In Hanami, there are planes going off every day, but Shas Sakana, the Chora, planes itself, every time you get up in a plane, that's a dangerous thing. And maybe we should not do that during the 3 weeks, maybe all flights. Now that would obviously greatly hinder vacation plans if you wouldn't be able to fly anywhere. So it's brought down that Rav Wosner, even though he was Mako when it came to going swimming, even in the sea, but Rav Wosner says that one shouldn't fly. Ida Gisa, I found, Rav Shlomo Zalman says that one is allowed to fly up until the 9 days. Once the 9 days come, that's even more severe, even more shas sakana, more dangerous time. And Rav Shlomo Zalman says one shouldn't fly during the 9 days. That being said, it's brought up the Farish, and I know many times we get these shadows here in yeshiva. Rav Shlomo Zalman said that if the nafkamina being of a person flying is the Gabi Yeshiva, that look, this man's going, let's say Tov Rosh Chodesh or right before Tisha B'Av. So if the Talmud would fly before the 9 days, that could be taking away days from yeshiva, days from Limud Torah. So Rav Shlomo Zalman said in his din of Shluchei Mitzvah to go back home only after a person finishes yeshiva. And Rav Shlomo Zalman was okay with the Talmud of the yeshiva flying during the 9 days. But in general, anyone else, they need to get somewhere. I see this year, it is tricky, to get somewhere for Shabbos Nachamu, just the way the calendar comes out. Tisha B'Av is towards the end of the week. It's not so simple. People might be inclined, if they want to be somewhere for Shabbos Nachamu, to travel beforehand. So, the whole machlokas is about the 3 weeks. When it comes to the 9 days, it seems that everyone is quite nervous and would say there is some sakana involved in flying, and that's a big shayla. Traveling by plane during the 3 weeks, but most particularly during the 9 days. One more practical halacha about the 3 weeks. When does the 3 weeks begin? So the Pashup Pshat, the 3 weeks begins the night of Shavas B'Tammuz. So practically speaking, this year Shavas B'Tammuz comes out on Thursday. So Wednesday night, ready Ben Hashmashos, that's when the 3 weeks begin. No more haircuts, no more music, but also these nafkaminas that we've been talking about sakana, that begins too. Now, Rav Moshe happens to have a heter. Rav Moshe hears a tzad that the 3 weeks really only begin from the next morning, when the Tainus begins. But I saw Shmuel Kamenetsky, for example, he says that Rav Moshe's psak is a big chedesh. It's not so simple to be somech on it. So, pashtas from already Wednesday night, all these halachas regarding sakana, regarding the minhagim of the 3 weeks already begin. Until now, the shir we've been talking about the 3 weeks. Really, just end off to spend a few minutes talking about the 9 days. So the 9 days, we know the famous halacha, it's brought in the bottom of your sheets, Nichnas Av Mimatim B'Simcha. Once Av comes, in Ramayit Simcha. And that's when we put the halachas of Avelos become more intense, for sure in the Ashkenazic world, but even in the Sephardic world, Shvu Shechalbo, that once Chodesh Av comes around, we start being more makbid, then we start at halachas of eating meat, halachas of swimming, many things. But the lashon the Chazal use is Mishenichnas Av, from the time that Av comes in. So I saw a fascinating Pri Megadim. Pri Megadim says, do you know when the halachas of the 9 days come about? Do you know when, practically, halacha l'maisa, Shlomo Zalman says you could fly during the 3 weeks on an airplane. The 9 days you can't. Do you know when Mishenichnas Av Mimatim B'Simcha begins? Why? Pri Megadim says, why did Chazal use a lashon Mishenichnas, from when it comes in? They should say, they were Chodesh Av Mimatim B'Simcha. What's the lashon Mishenichnas Av? Zak the Pri Megadim. It begins from the time of the Molid. I don't know what other halachas other than Rosh Chodesh benching do we care about the Molid. Right? The molid is usually a certain amount of time, hours, sometimes a day, even more, before Rosh Chodesh. Misha nichnas av b'matim b'simcha. The Pri Megadim says halacha l'maisa. That's from the time of the molid. So that's nogea, people's flights, right? Every few hours, these things, nogea, these halachas. Misha nichnas av b'matim b'simcha. Now this Pri Megadim I think is huge, because l'chara it works for the other way too. Misha nichnas adar marvin b'simcha. So we always thought, okay, Misha nichnas adar marvin b'simcha is from the first day of Rosh Chodesh, right? Rosh Chodesh. Adar usually has 2 days of Rosh Chodesh. Misha nichnas adar marvin b'simcha begins from the first Aleph Adar. Oisai, it's not true. Misha nichnas adar marvin b'simcha is not just the first day of Rosh Chodesh. It's from the molid. It's a beautiful Pri Megadim. Has big ramifications. People want to be extra happy during Adar. In yeshivas, there are usually a lot of hachanas for Purim already being done. Misha nichnas adar. You get an extra day or two, according to this Pri Megadim. Not bad. Look, we need all the simcha we could get. Just 2 other halachas I'd like to share with you. During halachas on the 9 day to give us a little perspective, and I think these are also nogea for a vacation. One of the things I think people like doing on vacation is shopping. In America, people like doing shopping all year round, right? They say the malls are not doing as well as they used to, but okay, it's not because people are not shopping. They're just doing it at home. The luxury of their home, not going into the stores. But even those who don't just purchase things, which we could discuss, that's its own topic. You are allowed to purchase things during the 3 weeks. But the idea is just if it's something chashiva, say you put on make a shachiana, we don't make a shachiana during the 3 weeks. But to add some purchases during the 3 weeks, could do. A souvenir shop, you want a souvenir T-shirt, great. So you can buy it, just don't put it on. But so one thing I saw people debate: can you go window shopping? That's the cheaper way of doing things. Right? Oh my gosh, it's so exciting! Can we just check out the store, look at what they have? So maybe that's not appropriate during the 9 days, because that brings simcha. Check out, look at the store, look at the price tag. Wow, right? People enjoy window shopping. Right? It used to be Macy's, Herald Square. I used to call the windows in Macy's windows to the world. That they used to dress up their windows, and people would always look in the windows of their store, the famous Macy's store. I'm not sure the windows are there yet. This might be pieces of wood there. Looks like a hurricane hit, but for those who don't know, there was some violence, all over New York. So I'm not sure they were covered fully yet. I'm not sure you could even do window shopping, but okay, it means going in the store if they let you in. So mishnichnas al mati b'simcha. So someone taina that perhaps you should ask window shopping during the 3 weeks, during the 9 days. So Shmuel Kamenetsky said to that, I think a very important halacha hashkafa, is we should not be adding isurim to what is already there. If something is directly connected, thinking back to the halacha we started with about Hein Talmidim, okay, so you know what? That fits very well with if we stand on the underlying opinions of it. Yeah, the same thing about a surgery, perhaps. But here, window shopping, you want to say this is simcha and therefore this is aser. So Shmuel says we can't add isurim. We should not add isurim to the minhagim that we have. We should just keep the minhagim that we have. It's fine. No point to adding isurim. And that was one thing. The Yida Gisa, I saw Shmuel was asked to Shiloh, what about taking kids to amusement parks during the 9 days? And that Rav Shmuel was against. And he titled that, look, that amusement park Kishmo Keinu is just for amusement, is just for fun, just for simcha. And in that, we should start being mechanech children. That the right thing is, during the 9 days, we have to scale things back. And that perhaps one shouldn't do. I know it could be some camps do, they do things, but amusement park is usually one of the biggest trips of the summer, so that usually comes not during the 9 days. And because Lamaisa, these are days which, there should be a focus. Should be some focus on the Churban, on the tragedy of the days. They're days of mourning. And although we're not in the Madrega, no one's expecting people to be mourning all day for these things, but to have some perspective about it. Ideally, look, if a person could get away after Tisha B'Av, that's a better time to do it. But unfortunately, many of our lives are busy, and it does not allow the luxury of going whenever we can. We have to make the most of it. So, in general, most poskim, I think, would say, stop, go away on vacation, summer vacation in 3 weeks, that's okay. But we see some of the different activities, if it might be Shas HaKana, I didn't see brought down the halacha. Can you go cliff diving during the 3 weeks? You're right, it may not be such a possible thing to do. Right? Bungee jumping, I don't know. But definitely, look, you saved adventures for after the 3 weeks, after the 9 days. But to get away, to spend time away from things, away from people. I'll end with a story. I was originally debating whether I should say the story or not, but I think I can say it over. Last week, we had a beautiful share about Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky. And Yaakov, besides being a memorable gadol, but Rabbi Yaakov was also posek, and tremendous posek with tremendous insight. So, I believe a yeshiva man once came over to him, asking a question. Look, he needs to get away. His wife needs a vacation. Could he go away? He found a place far away from anywhere. Doesn't have a minion. That's where he wants to go for his summer vacation. Is he allowed to go there? He's not going to have a minion. No access. So Rabbi Yaakov looked at him. Rabbi Yaakov says yes. For shalom bayis, for being able to go on vacation with your wife. Halakhic Rabbi Yaakov was machshav 1,000% davening with the minion. Right? The Shiloh was asked in the days when Minyanim were simple, easily have a minion. Rabbi Yaakov was not downplaying davening with the minion one iota, but he was building up what it means to go away. And he said, with Rabbi Yaakov's trademark smile, said, hey, if you really need a vacation, if you really want a vacation, you have to go to a place where no one else is there. Otherwise, it's not a vacation. You get caught up in things. And Rabbi Yaakov was ready to give a heter for a person to go on vacation, even if it means missing a minion. So, L'maisa, vacations are important, and it's quality time, it's internal time. At the same time, look, during the 3 weeks, there's a certain element of avelos, sakana, that one has to take into account. But in general, we all need bitulo ze kiyumo. The ability to refresh is a means to make us stronger, to serve Hashem even better when we come back. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Have a wonderful vacation at some point in the summer if you go. And Bez Hashem, we'll speak. Kol tov.